Welcome to another video. In this one, we're going to talk about the NCAA and the policy change that happened about a week ago and how it's still irrelevant, and we're going to talk about my college plan for these one-and-done athletes. So it's been about a week since the NCAA Board of Governors had a press release come out in regards to the name, image, and likeness that has kind of been pushing forward ever since Governor Gavin Newsom's bill that was signed. And I'm going to give you a brief kind of overview of what is going on or what the NCAA said in their press release. And then I'm going to kind of just delve into a little bit of my own opinion and then some things that I think I need to get off my chest in regards to the NCAA and really just questions for what they're not doing and what I think they should be doing. To start off, I'm going to read directly from the press release on ncaa.org. You can find this. So in the press release, it says, in the association's continuing effort to support college athletes, the NCAA's top governing board voted unanimously to permit students participating in athletics the opportunity to benefit from the use of their name, image, and likeness in a manner consistent with the collegiate model. This is obviously a direct response to Governor Gavin Newsom's bill that he had signed, the Fair Pay to Play Act. Although his was sort of the proactive step, this is more of a reactive step from the NCAA, kind of just saying, you know, don't hate us, essentially. It's like we're still, I guess they're thinking that they pay attention to the news, even though this was almost a month ago that Governor Gavin Newsom signed this publicly on LeBron James's show. And LeBron James is a superstar in all regards of media. So the fact that it took them really this long to kind of come out with some sort of response is really just showing us, again, how reactive instead of proactive the NCAA is being. This NCAA policy change should go in effect January 2021. I am absolutely positive that we will hear more about the details or the little ancillary things that will go in with this. But as of right now, January 2021 is the goal deadline for them. So I already kind of got into a little bit of the scrutinizing of this reactive, statement that they have, the press release. But I like to just kind of delve more into it. And I've already started with, again, being reactive instead of proactive. And this being a direct response to Gavin Newsom's bill. This is not an NCAA brainchild. Instead, this is just another example of the NCAA kind of scooting along as if there is nothing wrong. Well, there is something wrong. This is getting old. This is a lot of students are at schools that deserve to get paid, and clearly the NCAA is holding this off for as long as they can. And some numbers for you: the NCAA in 2016, I'll be generous in saying $995.9 million is their total revenue. So about $1 billion. And actually in 2017, it was $1.1 billion estimated. That's a lot for a non-profit organization. And yet these employees that they specifically state in here, it says reaffirm that student athletes are students first and not employees of the university. Well, these student athletes, if you know anything about their schedule, they wake up at 5 a.m. and go to sleep at 12 a.m. just to fit, and that's a normal day schedule. Now, being a college student, that's rigorous, including the coursework, which is why this is a huge deal. And I actually found this graphic that was on ncaa.org, again, just trying to put out and say, we know what the student athletes go through. Well, this is just a basic breakdown of all of the different things that an NCAA student does on a daily basis. Now, this is just any student. Now, if you take into account an Alabama football player, it's probably more rigorous than this. So not only do they have to maintain this sort of schedule every day, and I'm sure, if you're a football player, like I said, an Alabama football player, you play on Saturdays. So Saturday is an all-day event that is just football, and then Sunday is most likely an all-day event that is football. So you fit into their kind of your school schedule, and then on top of that, you have to maintain a GPA. Well, this limits a lot of people going in. Once the coaches or once the athletic director introduces them to their schedule, they are limited in their selection of what major they're allowed to pursue. Because if you're an Alabama football player, I'll just use that because it's the best example and everybody knows it, you're most likely not going to be a petroleum engineer. You're not going to be a biomedical sciences major. You're not going to be a finance major, because that requires more than 4 hours a day of studying. That requires a full commitment to school. They aren't pursuing a difficult degree. They are then hindered on their full education, which is, again, the purpose of getting a scholarship that the NCAA pushes on us is, oh, they're not getting paid because they get free school. Well, it's not the school that they want to get. A lot of these guys want to go pursue, a lot of these guys and girls want to pursue a specific degree, but then they aren't allowed to, or it's not physically possible to, because of their schedule, because of the commitment they have to make to their sport. Now, this kind of ties into another point that I had picked off this press release that states, maintain the priorities of education and the collegiate experience to provide opportunities for student athlete success. Maintain the priorities of education and the collegiate experience. How can you prioritize education if the schedule is so structured around the sport you're playing that you don't even get to pick the education you receive? And for a lot of these people, especially, we'll get into the one and dones or the 3-year football players, they don't even get to finish their degree. A lot of these guys you hear after they've pursued a career professionally, they go back and they get their school. And a lot of these schools offer an opportunity for them to go back and not have to pay for their schooling, to finish out their schooling, which is a great opportunity. But if you don't begin with the major that you want to do, or you pursue something that you never really intended doing for your entire life, just think about this. You go to school, the purpose of college is to go to school to better yourself in a way that you can pursue exactly what you want to do. If you want to be in the business sector, you go to school, you go to college, and you pursue a finance degree, you pursue a marketing degree, you pursue something that you want to do. However, if you go to school and your schedule is a 5 to 12 NCAA student athlete schedule, you can't pursue a finance degree. You have to pursue a Parks and Recreation degree, something that's more form-fitting to the sport you're playing, because you won't be able to succeed, let alone keep up the GPA in a tougher major, which then you lose on both fronts. You not only fail out of the college that you're in, the major that you're in, the college within the university, but then you're not allowed to play football or baseball or softball or whatever it may be, because you have to maintain a certain GPA. So the limitations that are put on these student athletes, and then they aren't allowed to make money on top of it. So you're telling me I have to go to school for something I don't want to do. I have to commit myself 5 a.m. to 12 a.m. on a major that I really don't want to pursue, and then on top of that, I don't get paid? This is why in the second part of the video, because we just concluded the first part. The first part was the NCAA policy or the press release that came out. The second part is a topic that I would like to discuss in regards to a college plan for these NCAA students. Now, this is not revolutionary. This is something I have not researched. This is something that is simply, I thought of this and I said, why is this not a thing? A lot of people have done that over time and it turns into something great. And I'm sure that somebody has run through this before, and I'm sure there's red tape everywhere, but I'd like to just throw this idea out there. Now, this college plan is specifically centered around top tier athletes. And I'm going to use the example of one and done athletes. So to put this in perspective, there's a few that I've kind of listed out. So we have Zion, Karl-Anthony Towns, Anthony Davis, Kyrie, Kevin Durant, these kinds of guys where they step on the court and you go, okay, like this guy is he's just doing his time in college so that he can make it to the next level. Well, a lot of these schools, if you don't take credit hours in high school, you have to take basics your first year. So a lot of these guys were taking English 101, Math 101, Writing 101, things like this. Things that you're not going to need when you're playing professional basketball for 10, 15 years. And I'm going to stick with basketball because basketball is the easiest example because you're only going to stay there for 1 year. Just to give you a perspective on exactly who I'm talking about, I looked up some numbers. This NorwichCSD.org has a document, Pro Sports Odds, and there's a couple numbers that I'd like to run over with you just to give you a perspective of how little a number actually make it to the draft. Now, these numbers are centered around football because I believe football it's a larger number. You're going to have more draft picks, more positions on the field, so it kind of gives you a better grasp. NCAA senior players drafted by an NFL team is about 1 in 50 or 2%. So 2% of NCAA seniors. So I pulled up the NCAA.org for further evidence to kind of show you the total amount of NCAA players that really make it to professional. So here's a few numbers. The NCAA in football have 73,557 participating. Now, the number that are approximately draft eligible is about 16,346. You're already taking a chunk out of that, about a little less than a quarter. So the number of draft picks are 256. So you drop from 16,346 to 256 draft picks. So the number of NCAA that are drafted are 255. That's 1.6%. 1.6, you get that number from 255 players drafted out of 16,346. 1.6%. Now, take that number, and this is for football, remember, and you take the top tier of that 1.6%. The players that are in football will use Tua or Jalen or Jonathan Taylor, these kinds of guys that are going to play football. They're not there, and they're not going to do their time and then move on. They're not some backup safety that's just kind of riding out the scholarship that's going to get his degree and then move on with his life and tell a good story in the future that he played college football. No, these are guys that are top tier. This is what this college plan is for. It's top tier. We know they're going professionally. So the idea behind this is when these guys enter into NCAA, enter into that play, step on foot on their college campus, they should be allowed special access to a program. Now, for engineers, business majors, anything that would be difficult, anything in the medical field, anything that would be difficult for a student to get into, because you have to have a certain GPA in high school, you have to make a certain score on standardized testing, you may have to know somebody, you have to have recommendation letters, all these things to get into a major. So this is just that version except for athletes, because these athletes are specially gifted to get into this specific major. Now, this major is centered around one and dones. So what it does is it gets rid of the basics because these guys are not going to need basics, and it gives them valuable tools their freshman year that they need to learn before they move on. One of the top classes that really, this was what kind of built the idea in my head, is these guys need to know how to manage high income. A lot of these athletes that come from low-income houses have never been handed $1 million, obviously, have never been surrounded by money, let alone have they earned multi-million dollars. Especially in their first year, a lot of these guys like Zion will sign a multi-million dollar shoe contract, endorsement deal, signing bonus, contract. There are special breeds that know, okay, don't spend all of my money. But then there's the people like Vince Young. And Vince Young blows all of his money because he was never taught, okay, this is how you manage money. This is what you do with it. And that rolls into the next class that I would suggest is basic investment. Just when you're handed all this money, invest some of it. The goal of this is if you work 18 years in basketball sense, 18 years of your life, or let's say you start at 3 years old, 15 years of your life, and all you do is play basketball. All you do is focus on playing basketball. They say it takes 10,000 hours to master. Well, these guys are putting in a lot more than 10,000 hours to reach the NBA because 10,000 hours is no longer enough. You have to put in 20,000, 30,000. You have to put in excess amounts of hours in order to make it to that level. And if you're putting in all of that effort to reach this level, you're not focusing on math or English or any of those things because you're focused on, I'm going to make it to the NBA. I'm going to play professional basketball. That's how I'm going to make my money. Now, if you do that and you make it to the NBA, and let's say you have an 8-year career and you make $20 million, $30 million. Now, if you live a high income lifestyle, then you're going to burn all your money. And then after that, you spent your entire life preparing to make it to the NBA and make money. Well, now you're out of the NBA and you don't have any skills because all your skills were about the NBA. All your skills were playing basketball. So what do? Well, this is what this college plan does. And it also, in another sense, keeps college relevant because eventually people are going to be allowed to skip college or, as we've seen with LaMelo Ball, go overseas and play and make money until you're draft eligible and then fly back over and play in the NBA. It's going to make college irrelevant, especially for the top tier players. So then college basketball is going to be, what are you doing? So the last two that I've kind of highlighted, that I want to highlight, so I've highlighted two so far, the high income money management and then basic investment. And the last two, agent training. Lonzo got some money stolen from him from a business partner in Big Baller Brand, and that's not really his agent, but it kind of just shows you that there are some people out there who are willing to swindle these guys who don't understand, higher level business, that don't understand when you have $1 million, like if you take 2% here and 5% here and 10% here, then you're left with 500,000, and then another person comes by 2% here, 5% here, 10%, and then it's 100,000, and then all of a sudden it's getting depleted over time. So having an agent training, or really just like team training, like guys that surround you, that handle your money, handle your finances, handle the things that you weren't trained to do. Again, you spent 15 years playing basketball, and that's what this has led you to. Now you need people who spent 15 years learning how to manage money. This is important. This is something you need to learn. And the last one is media training. Now there are some, great people in all sports that are gifted around a camera, and they don't need help with media training. But there are also, that's again, like I went over that 1.6%, and then you take a percentage of that. That's the same thing with media training. Not a lot of people are comfortable in front of a camera because not a lot of people have been in front of a camera. The goal is for top tier athletes, one and done athletes, to take this program, to take this first year of classes where they're not too hard, but they're life skills you need. They're skills that, given where you're going to be in 5-10 years, this will benefit you more than English 101, Math 101, Writing 101. That is the purpose of this. Anyway, I've gone over my NCAA plan, or my NCAA policy review, and then the college plan I've put together. Let me know what you think. Again, I'm on Twitter @AlexDeClaire. Comment on this video. Don't forget to subscribe, and I will see you next time.